So, on today's episode, we wanted to talk about the relationship with money.
Money is what makes the world go round.
It does, especially in a capitalist society.
I knew you were going to plug that in somewhere.
I have to. I've been talking about capitalism for a bit now. Sorry, guys.
So, why do you think that talking about our relationship with money is so important?
Well, I think if you're going to live a holistic life, money is a part of it, like some sort of financial wellness. And we're a wellness podcast. So I thought this is something that fits in with what we've done. We haven't really talked about money before. We might like allude to it here and there, but really I feel like the relationship to money is a relationship that all of us have. We all have it in totally different ways. And yet it's something that for whatever reason in our culture, we don't like talking about money. It's kind of like Bruno. Everybody's like, we don't talk about Bruno, but yet everybody talks about money. Everybody's actually doing something with money.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think you're right. I think that when we talk about wellness, we talk about physical wellness, spiritual wellness, but what is financial wellness and what does that look like to each of us?
Well, and I think we all just have such different values attached with it, right? There's so much value and judgment, shame that comes with money. It's like money is like its own thing that why haven't we given it enough attention?
I just think about all the stress that is associated or tied with money. So I'm really excited about bringing our friends on the show.
Yes, a friend and money expert. We've got Mayra Garcia with us today. She's the Debt-Free Latina. Mayra, welcome to the show and thanks for agreeing to have a conversation with us about money.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk about this topic.
Yes. So now I know with you being the debt-free Latina, like tell us a little bit about like what drew you into actually speaking about money with other people.
Well, when I started learning and got on my debt-free journey in 2010, there was nobody that was talking about money in the Hispanic community. It's a taboo topic. I didn't learn about it growing up. So I thought, well, I love this topic. Maybe I should start looking into getting certified and learning all the things so that I can talk to my gente.
That's awesome.
So I know that you start exploring a little bit more about like finances, what it means and everything like that. But where did this notion of becoming debt-free come into your life?
Well, it started when I started learning and listening to the Dave Ramsey show. That's how it all sort of started. And then I took the Financial Peace University class and then slowly starting digging into more of the philosophy and learning more about money, just because he isn't the only guru out there talking about money. So then I started really like reading the books, getting as many, going to as many conferences as I needed to, and just to gain the knowledge, because like I said before, I had none.
Mm-hmm. I think we spend so much time maybe in American culture thinking about how we can hustle to make more money, but I don't think, or rarely do we think about how we actually relate to money. And I know, Cydia, you had mentioned where our connection to money really begins.
Yes. So I found this, I thought it was fascinating that according to a PBS report, children can understand basic concepts of money as early as age 3. And by the time they're 7 years old, they already have values set around money. So our relationship with money is, if we're looking at it, right, it's our caregivers. Those are our first relationships, siblings, if we maybe have them. And then money, like it's up there. Like, I just think that's insane. Like, what do you think, Mayra?
I think that's very true. As a mother of 2 teenagers, they saw us when they were little. When you said 3 to 7, at that age, that's when we were getting out of debt and we were, on the Dave Ramsey show doing the debt-free scream and doing all that. So I feel like looking at them now as teenagers and how they relate to money is so different than how I did. So that's very true. I think that, you learn first from your parents and then you kind of figure out what you believe in or how you're going to relate to it. And everybody is very different. And even though I have 2 kids that grew up in the same household, they still view money very different.
I tend to agree with you completely. I feel like when I was growing up, I had one idea of money. And then when I was on my own trying to figure things out, I still used those values because I hadn't learned anything else. And then what I found really interesting was that once I got with somebody, with Matt, who actually knows about money and knows how to be responsible with money, then I went to this other extreme where I totally adopted all of his viewpoints. And now I'm at a place where I'm like, I don't agree with all of your viewpoints because they might be too extreme or too risk averse. And I like a little bit more risk. I don't know what to tell you. But I feel like it shifts. And so like now I'm really working on, okay, what do I think about money? What's my relationship with money? What about you guys?
I think that I definitely was influenced by my childhood. So there are certain experiences that I remember. For example, when my parents first divorced and my mom, who was a single parent or a stay-at-home mother, had to quickly find, how am I going to make money for my kids? And so I just remember telling myself, like, I will never be in a position where I have to worry about money. And then that was compounded a few years later when my mom was started working full time as a nurse, and I was in charge of watching my younger siblings. And I remember she would give me, because we lived hand to mouth. Like, I mean, it was like from paycheck to paycheck, we pinched every penny, watched everything. My mother would give me $300 to $400 and tell me to take my youngest sibling, Megan, to go grocery shopping and to make sure that I was able to purchase enough food for the month. And I just remember as a young child, because I was 16 at the time, how terrifying that was to budget and to make sure that, I had enough food to help feed the family. And again, that just reaffirmed my need. Like, I will never put myself in this situation. And so for a while, I was a complete saver. I rarely spent any money on myself. And I think kind of like what you're talking about, City, is like, as, my financial situation changes, as I, work up in my career and everything like that, I'm slowly trying to let go of that mentality, to treat myself every once in a while. But I still find that hard to struggle with. What about you, Mayra?
I grew up in a home where my mom was just so disorganized with money. She had money, but we had the power turned off a few times. I remember the last time it happened, I was a 14-year-old in high school about to have a final, and I had to study that night, and I got home and there was no power. So I went out to the street light to read my book because I needed to study. And I just remember being really angry and just saying, this will never happen to me. Like, I went the complete opposite of my mom, where now I'm super organized and I have, like, I can tell you where every penny went in the last 10 years, which is extreme, but that's now what I had to do to cope with that. Like, I understand that, but I didn't at first. Like, why am I so like extreme? And it's like, well, because I had some trauma. Growing up, I saw what it's like not to be organized, even though you have money. So there's little things like that where I've had to learn, right? Because my husband will balance me out. Well, like, I'm a little more of a saver, but we both have, very similar tendencies. It's interesting. Like, we just spend on different things and we like to save on different things, but we balance each other out. So those are little things that I've had to learn just over the years of how our childhood affects us.
Yeah, I find it so interesting that both of you guys had this relationship with money where you got to a point where you're like, this is never going to happen to me again. And I don't think I had that, like, ever. I don't think I've ever had that moment, because I can tell you that even as a baby lawyer, I was living paycheck to paycheck because I just didn't know how to get my shit together. And I was making more money than my parents combined. And it was like my first baby lawyer job. I think I started, my clerkship was like 62,000, and then it jumped up to like 75. This was not an insignificant amount of money, right? And I couldn't figure it the fuck out.
Well, it's interesting when you look at like the curriculum that's being taught in school. Like, I remember we had to take economics, and here you are, you're learning about like the 3 levels of law. I don't know, branches of law, whatever.
I hated that class.
But they don't tell you how to balance or create a budget, what the hell your freaking credit score means and how it's calculated, And so I really feel like they don't teach you these life skills yet. As soon as you turn 18, boy, do those credit card companies like hound you to apply for credit. And since you don't know what credit is, why the hell not? Why not apply and be able to, spend money that you don't have? And is it any surprise then that a lot of us start to accumulate debt?
I think it's so funny that you're bringing that up because you're this young kid and then you're going to school, and on campus they'll be like, you can get a branded card with the school logo on it. And you're just like, oh yeah, like maybe I'm like that. I'm like, oh, that's exciting. Or, oh, I'll get an extra 20% off if I get the store card. It's like, I did not need a Target card at 18, guys. I did not need it. Okay. But I sure as hell wanted it. And I was like, okay, let me go ahead and do that. And yet we're never given tools on how to actually deal with this relationship that, I mean, it's probably one of the longest relationships that we're going to be in.
Mm-hmm. Mayra, I'm curious, what tools have worked for you to kind of like move into this realm of being debt free?
I would say the biggest impact was creating a budget at first. The first time I actually sat down and wrote down everything I pay, all of the non-bills, like what is food costs? What is, we have picture day coming up. We have these just random expenses. And when I really got organized and was able to plan out and create templates for like a whole year ahead, when I was able to see what my future could look like, right? And then when I attained my debt freedom, right? When I became debt free, I was like, the first time I actually completed a long-term goal. I had never done that before. So that was impactful. It changed my life. And so I would say that was the first thing. Second was I started learning that there were certain categories in my budget that I would always overspend on. So then I implemented the envelope system in those categories. So I still to this day, 12 years later, since I started budgeting, I still pull out my cash for money for groceries. Sorry, for groceries, for eating out. I pull it out every single Friday. Mm-hmm. So those are the little things that I did in order to that were different than before.
I really find the envelope system to be really interesting. And I know that it was introduced, like you said, by Dave Ramsey. My sister actually does that. And kind of like you said, the premise behind it is that you cash your paycheck and you assign envelopes to like rent, utilities, groceries, everything like that. And then you allocate that cash in these separate envelopes, and you are only able to spend what's in that envelope. No more than that. And so the idea behind this activity, I was reading into it, is to actually create a physical and a tangible connection to your money. Because I think sometimes there was a study done that shows that people will pay up to 100% more when they shop with their card rather than when they shop with cash. So I found that to be very interesting. So I think that the envelope system works really well. It worked really well for my sister. I think she still does that. One thing that I would even add to that too, that I'm terrible about, is checking your statements, checking your bank statement, checking your credit card statement.
I'm recoiling over here. She's like, oh, look at all of your things. I'm like, no, don't look at anything. But that's, those are my own money stories right now.
I am terrible. Like, and it's funny because when I was still in college and maybe didn't have like, two nickels to rub together, I would definitely be checking everything. And I think that as, I grew in my career, my income increased, I just like put things on auto payment, like subscriptions, I don't even think about it. And then the other day, I happened to just look at my American Express and I was like, what is that charge? It ended up being a subscription to Kindle. First of all, I don't own a Kindle, but I think it was to like I was wanting to get a book for book club that I couldn't find anywhere else. And I was like, I did that. I signed up for like the free Kindle trial years ago. So how long has this been charged to my credit card? And how much money did I lose by just being negligent of not checking the statement? So I would say, I would add to what Mayra was saying and check your damn statements.
I agree in principle with what you guys are saying, but like, I'm I'm at a different extreme right now where like I paid off all of my student loans in 2019. I was debt free. And then I had a bunch of savings in 2020. And then I started my own business in 2021. And I've gone through my savings. I didn't adjust soon enough. And so I've been in an avoider pattern where I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not looking at it. I will pay what I need to pay, but I'm not looking at it because I something about being faced with like what feels like a failure right now from going from one extreme to another. Like it's physically like I can feel my heart rate go up when it's like, okay, go check your credit card statement. I was like, no, what did I do? And so the tips that I'm going to give are going to be a little bit different because they're coming from this place. The first thing that I would suggest to anyone is to think about your future self and be kind to your future self instead of saying it's your future self's problem. Y'all are the same person. Okay. There are some things that, you know what, future self can fold the laundry, but in terms of the spending and what I'm buying between needs and wants, and, you know, that's a whole nother conversation. Just think about your future self. And is this something that your future self is going to have to try to deal with, and like what kind of issues that could bring up? But I think mostly just thinking about that kindness of, okay, what is it that you want, right? I want to be able to be retired. I want to get back to that place of feeling, oh, I can breathe. I can look at my statement and not worry about, you know, it being something I don't want to see right now. So that's my tip. Think about your future self. And then the other one is, again, from the same point of view, is your money situation, whatever that is, it will pass. If you're struggling, if you're successful, or, you know, quote unquote successful, whatever it is that you're in right now, you're going to get through it. It's not going to be the same. But you also have the ability to put in tools, systems to get to those places that you want to go. So like, I know, Mayra, you said you accomplished a long-term goal of getting debt free. Like, what was that like for you to get to that point?
It was amazing. It was really nice to share that with my family. I think my little kids, right, at the time they were 6 and 8. And I just remember they got to see what it took to shift from we could buy anything we wanted to, you know what, let's look at our budget. And so that was my response change to a lot of the things that were happening at the time we were getting out of debt. And I would say it's still to this day, there's a lot of things that will come up that were not planned in the budget. And I'll say, well, I'm not sure it's in the budget, but let's look at it and let's make some shifts. And so now they know that they have choices to make. I don't like to use the word sacrifice. I like to say, well, you have a choice because money is not infinite. We don't have an infinite amount. So you need to make some choices with what we do have. And so for me, it's like, well, this is a skill that we've all had to learn together, which is really nice.
I like that. And so I know that we talked about earlier that, you know, children see or learn of their relationship to money from their parents. Now I think you, if I remember correctly, you have a son, right? That's in college and
yes.
Going to college. So how do you see your older children relating to money? Do they create a budget like you, or do they have their own system?
Alan, my son, who's 20, he has his own system. So he knows the basics, and I've given him the freedom to make his choices. Now, we do have conversations because he has his own account. I don't get to see it. He is of age. And so when he was struggling to save at one point, because of course he was working part-time and money was coming in and he was spending, I told him, I said, what is your goal? You need to have a goal, because if not, you're going to be spending everything. So what is it that you want to do? And then we did come to an agreement. He said he wanted to spend about $100 a week in, just whatever he wanted. And I said, I think that's a little excessive. Let's talk about this. And so we had a conversation and came down to $50 where he can have that in his pocket, but he still has allocated other things, right? So I think that he's now moving towards, we had a conversation just yesterday about he wants to actually learn my system. And I haven't pushed it because I feel like he needs to figure out what works for him. And if it doesn't work, then he can come and ask me. He knows that. So, but I don't want to push my way of doing things to him. He needs to figure this out. And now that he has more aggressive goals, he wants to, pursue physical therapy school, which is a master's degree after this bachelor's. I said, well, then we need to start thinking, because that's only 2 years out.
That's amazing though. I mean, what a compliment to you that he's like, Mom, I want your help. Because I can tell you, I don't think I've ever said that to my mom.
For anything, I'm sure.
But like literally for anything. Like I know it's funny, but it's also true. Like they're not authorities when it comes to any kind of like romantic relationships, and definitely not money. Like I'm not going to them with these money concerns because I felt like y'all didn't teach me shit. So I had to figure out my own ways, and I really had to stumble and fall and get into debt. Like I know both of you, I'm going to say this confidently. I know you guys have probably never been to a pawn shop. I've been to a pawn shop. I've done the payday loans. I've done all this stuff, where like, just because I've been irresponsible. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
I have not been responsible. I don't know. I can't talk today. But like it came down to the choices that I was making because I didn't have the tools.
I want to come back to something that Mayra said, which was about the budget. I have a budget too that I created a few years back that I share with my husband because we actually keep our accounts separate. So we have this shared account and we create, expense accounts for each one and how much we spend. And it's very nice to kind of just at a glance be able to see how much we're spending, and they actually become a goal. So like we have, a money or a number associated with the amount of groceries we spend. And I remember my husband's like, we can lower that. We can absolutely lower that. So I think just it serves as a way to almost benchmark what you're spending and kind of illuminate areas where you can improve your spending. So
I don't budget. Like here's what I do. I take a 30-foot, 60-foot view of what I'm doing overall. And then I put things into place because I want to say, as much as the student loan sucked, that goal of getting out of that debt, that long-term goal, absolutely helped me because I was able to decide at that point, okay, here's what's going to the student loans. Here's what I have left to play around with. Here's what extra I can throw that way. And so it wasn't like a budget that I'm constantly looking at. It was, okay, here's where I'm at right now. Here's what I've made. Here's what my increase is this year. What can I adjust? And then I would just implement, as opposed to constantly going back and looking at it, which is probably better because you guys are monitoring and being able to see things where y'all are going to hate this story. Last year I went on a trip, and during that trip, if you did a deposit and were able to meet a certain promotion within 60 days, they would basically lock in your next trip. And I knew I wasn't going to make it. So I reached out to the company and I was like, hey, like, this is not going to happen. And I got it in writing that they would agree not to pursue the balance at all. I don't look at the stuff. So I didn't realize until my accountant and I were looking at things in December, like 3 months later, that they actually did charge everything. So y'all wouldn't have let that slip.
No, I just said, like, I just noticed this expense on my MX that's been going on for years.
Yeah, but like, how big was it?
Okay, it was like $10 a month. But when you times that by 12, times that by however many years I've been neglecting it, I mean, that's a couple $100.
It does add up. It does add up. Like, I have the little ones, but this was like several thousands of dollars.
Must be nice to like not even notice.
No, it was because I'm in this avoider pattern right now where I'm not even looking at it. And then I was like, oh shit. And so then I had to undo this thing. I was like, hey, where did this come from? So now I have just more alerts on my phone of very large purchases and things to let me know, because sometimes that's how deep in the head in the sand I am.
No, but I think that that's an excellent tool. And that was actually one of the ones that I forgot to mention, because again, when I was a student, I was living paycheck to paycheck, and I would, connect with the banks and having them text me or email me balances, large payments. If my balance went under a certain amount, it would notify me, because I wanted to be aware of what my financial situation was at any point in time. So I found that that really helps. So I think that if our listeners out there maybe are living paycheck to paycheck, little things like, bank notifications, budgeting, checking your damn statements, I think, envelope system, all of that helps, and I think it's just finding what works best for them.
Yep. All right.
Also,
no, go ahead. I was just going to give you the final word.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that and say, having these alerts also help you against fraud. There is so much fraud out there. It is incredible the amount of times that I have seen clients say they got into my PayPal, they got into my Venmo, someone was, hacked me. And having that the two-step authentication.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So having that is crucial in all of your things with money online. So make sure you have that turned on.
Excellent addition. Absolutely. I mean, City learned the painful lesson of two-step authentication.
Yeah. The two-step authentication process. Yeah. I learned that lesson last year as well. I'm learning a lot of lessons at the moment, which I think we all are. But thank you so much, Mayra, for your time, for being here and talking to us about money and budgeting. And you guys give me hope. I can do this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a blast.
We had such a wonderful conversation and want to thank Mayra again for joining us. If you need help in creating a budget, you can download Mayra's budget template for free at debtfreelatina.com/budget.
Be sure to follow her on all the things as well. Also, be sure to tune in to part 2 on the relationship with money, where we will discuss the different money psychology profiles to find out more about your relationship with money.
That's it for this episode. Find us on Instagram at Pivotal Moments HQ for all the behind the scenes and sister-like banter you know and love. We want to thank our producer and music director, Ron Johnson. This has been an Astronomicus DMR and Pug Productions podcast.